Wishing you a very good day to all of you. Today we are going to continue the second part of our fifth unit from grade 10 Health and Physical Education lesson series. And our lesson is on learning about athletics. In this part of the lesson, we are going to have a look at the jumping events when it comes to athletics. And we can categorize them into 4 jumping events in athletics as long jump, triple jump, high jump, and pole vault. Long jump and triple jump are further classified as horizontal jumps, the jumps which are horizontal or done along the ground, and the high jump and pole vault come under vertical jumps, the jumps that are done perpendicular to the ground. So first we are going to start off with a long jump. Long jump is a jump which is completed in 4 stages. And these 4 stages are approach run, takeoff, flight, and landing. We're going to talk about these stages in the next part of the lesson. So you just have to remember that there are 4 stages in long jump, and they are approach run, takeoff, flight, and landing. There are 3 major flight techniques for the long jump. So we know that there are 4 stages of long jump: approach run, takeoff, flight, and landing. Flight is the 3rd stage. And to perform this 3rd stage, people follow 3 major flight techniques. And these techniques, they differ from one another according to the jumper's movements during the flight. And these 3 techniques are the hang technique, sail technique, and the hitch kick technique, or walking on the air. So in this lesson, we're going to talk about the hang technique. Alright, so we are going to talk about the hang technique of long jump. Hang technique is the type of flight this jumper takes, and we are going to talk about that. So there are 4 stages when it comes to long jump: approach run, takeoff, flight, and the landing. Let's talk about the approach run first. So approach run is usually started with the standing start. We talked about 2 starts when it comes to athletics, especially in running events. There are 2 starts, the standing start and the crouch start. So in the long jump also there's an approach run. There's a running part at the beginning. So it started with the standing start. And then the approach run is a really important part of the long jump because it helps the jumper to pick up the speed, and why it's important because he has to control that speed until he takes off from here. So that's what you need to learn about the approach run. And after that comes the takeoff, the 2nd stage of the long jump. And takeoff means the moment the takeoff leg touches the takeoff board. We can assume that there's a takeoff board somewhere here. The moment the takeoff leg, what we call as the takeoff leg, is the leg which touches the takeoff board. So the moment the takeoff leg touches the takeoff board and the moment it straightens out by getting ready for the flight can be called the takeoff stage. And you can see that the jumper's takeoff leg, the moment it releases from the takeoff board, the heel, the knee, and the hip are well straightened, and the free leg, you call this one the free leg is horizontal to the ground. And the other thing is the jumper's takeoff foot and also the foot that he uses to start the approach run should be the same. And after the takeoff comes the flight. So this is a flight using the hang technique. And you can see during the flight, the free leg that was horizontal to the ground gradually comes down and aligns with the takeoff foot. Now here they are both together at the same level. And then also the jumper moves back his hands. He kind of leans his top part of the body forward, and also he raises up both his legs to the front and forward. So that is what happens during the flight. And also when he is getting much closer to landing, his legs should be well straightened. Let's talk about landing in the next slide. Here we are going to talk about the landing stage. You can see how the body is leaning forward along with hands and legs. Everything is leaning forward, and then the legs are well straightened, and as the feet touch the ground, you can see the feet touching the ground, the jumper bends his knees and the whole body pushes forward along the ground in this sitting position. So that's what happens in landing. Here we are going to talk about some of the rules and regulations related to long jump. So in terms of these rules and regulations, the following jumps that we are going to discuss are considered to be foul. So one is when taking off, touching the area beyond the takeoff line. So this is the long jump bit. This is the takeoff board, and this is taken as the takeoff line. And this is the landing area. Right, so when taking off, touching the area beyond the takeoff line with any part of the body. So the moment the body takes off from this board, it cannot touch any part of the area beyond this takeoff line. And also when taking off, stepping on the ground on either side of the takeoff board. So when taking off, if they step on, this is ground on either side of the takeoff board. So if they step on any part of this ground and not the takeoff board, that is going to be a foul. And also touching the ground between the takeoff line and the landing area while jumping. So while jumping, if they happen to touch this area between the takeoff board and the landing area, that is also considered a foul. And also using somersaults while running or jumping is also a foul. And then when landing, touching the ground outside the landing area. Any part of the body cannot touch any part of the ground outside the landing area. If so, it's considered a foul. And also taking more than 1 minute to start the attempt after the jumper's number has been announced. So after the jumper's number has been announced, the jumper has to make the approach run within 1 minute. If it takes more than that, that is also considered a foul. And then when measuring the distance of the long jump, what they measure is the perpendicular distance from the takeoff line to the closest landing mark. We have to remember that it's the perpendicular distance and also the closest landing mark, because we know once the jumper lands in the landing area, he will be pushed forward. So he will be keeping his mark along the landing area, but the distance is taken from the first point, like first landing mark he makes in the landing area. So it's between the takeoff line and the closest landing mark, and that is measured usually in centimeters. So on the vertical jumps, we are going to talk about high jump. High jump is a vertical jump, And just like long jump, there are many techniques used for high jump since ancient times. And there are 5 techniques of high jump based on the bar clearance, which is the third stage of high jump. High jump also has 4 stages in the way it is performed. Let's have a look at it in the next slide. But we just have to know that when it comes to bar clearance, in the way it is done, there are 5 techniques. Scissor jump, eastern cutoff, western roll, straddle, and Fosbury flop. So with the development of technology, Fosbury flop style is the most widely used technique at present, and it is said to have better performance when compared to other types of bar clearances. Alright, so high jump can be divided into 4 stages under any of the above techniques that we discussed in the previous slide. So the 4 stages are approach run, takeoff, bar clearance, and landing. Just like the long jump, the only difference it makes is in the third stage, which is called bar clearance. The other 3 stages are called the same. And let's talk about approach run first. So you can see the curved path that the jumper takes when it comes to approach run, and the perpendicular distances are also shown here. It's usually 4 to 6 meters in this side and about 2 to 4 meters of perpendicular distance in this side. So this is the curved path. The jumper takes a curved path and it's not a straight path. So in the first part of the approach run, the jumper usually takes up the speed. He tries to gain speed, and then towards the second phase or the second part of his running, he tries to control his speed in order to take off. And also when he is making the run, when he is running in this curved path, his body is also curved towards the circular path. You can see it here. His body kind of looks curved towards the circular path. And also at the last step of the run, the body of the jumper is tilted backwards. So that is how the jumper should be during the approach run. Okay, here in the takeoff, you can see what happens is that the jumper pushes, like kind of kicks his takeoff foot to the ground with a backward push, with a fast backward push. He kicks the ground like that. And then also you can see the takeoff foot is directed towards the landing area. By the time he takes off, this is the takeoff foot, this is the free leg. This takeoff foot is directed towards the landing area. Now it's not much seen in this figure, but maybe if you look at 5.20, the bar clearance image, you can see how he's bending his takeoff foot towards the landing area. So that basically starts at the takeoff stage. The takeoff foot is directed towards the landing area, and when it comes to the free foot, it's taken up and it is raised until the thigh is parallel to the ground. You can see the thigh of the free leg is parallel to the ground, and also at the final phase you can see how the body is erect. It's erect, it's vertically straight. So if we talk about the bar clearance, soon after the takeoff, the jumper turns his back. You can see how he is turning his back towards the bar, and as he gets closer to the bar, you can see that the free leg, this is the free leg, this is the takeoff leg. He lowers his free leg, and at a certain point, the thighs of both legs should be parallel to the ground. They are together, they are parallel to the ground. and they are bent at the knee by 90 degrees. And then the moment the jumper's buttocks clear the bar, he should straighten his legs at the knees. So that's basically what happens in bar clearance. And this is the Fosbury flop that we are talking about. And then the final stage is landing. And when a jumper has completed the bar clearance, his body should be parallel to the ground and the legs should be straightened and raised up. And then when it comes to the landing, it should be the shoulders which first touch the landing area, followed by the arms of the jumper. Right? So that's it about landing. Let's look at some of the rules and regulations related to high jump. So the following jumps are considered to be foul. One is if the bar falls off while the jumper is jumping, it's considered to be a foul. And also making contact with the landing area or the area outside the two supporting poles with any part of the body before clearing the bar. Like suppose the jumper hasn't cleared the bar yet, but he has made contact with the landing area or else the outside of the two supporting poles. There are two supporting poles for the bar. So if he touches any area beyond that before clearing of the bar, that is also considered a foul jump. And also there are certain rules when it comes to high jump. One is taking off should be done with a single foot. And also continue to compete after 3 consecutive unsuccessful attempts. And there's another point that I'll be discussing in the next slide. So to elaborate more on some of the points from the previous slide, in high jump, there's a rule that if an athlete cannot make 3 consecutive attempts, like if he fails in 3 consecutive attempts, he is eliminated from the competition. So it could be all at the same height or else at different heights in a row. So whether it's all at the same height or all at different heights in a row, if all 3 are consecutive, like one after the other, he's eliminated from the game. And also a jumper can choose to pass a height without attempting it, and they can move directly to the next height. Like so I guess you know that when it comes to high jump, it starts at a certain standard height, and it also differs, like it depends on the type of competition, whether it's national, international, school level, and it depends on the age level, and there are so many like dependable factors. But if it starts at a particular height, and the jumpers can keep on choosing the next height, and they can also pass a height. Suppose a jumper starts it at 1.8 meters and he clears it off, and then let's assume that the next height is 1.85. He's supposed to clear off the 1.85 meters. However, he can decide to pass that height and move on to the next one, which is 1.9 meters. So that is possible. However, he cannot return to it to try it later. He has to move on and like move up in the ladder of heights. So this is it is said that this strategy is used when athlete wants to conserve his energy for higher jumps when they are confident that they can clear a greater height. However, in any of the cases, if they fail 3 times in a row at any point, they are eliminated from the game. So that brings us to the end of our lesson on jumps, and there are some more lessons to come, so please stay tuned. Thank you very much for listening.